I'm going to show you a quick and easy recipe. It's something I use with all the leftovers in my fridge, and it's a great way to turn leftover rice into a yummy treat that your whole family is going to enjoy. This is a gluten-free rice-based pizza crust. It's very simple, and then I'm going to use all the leftovers I've dug out of my fridge to make the toppings. So here it goes. In a bowl, I'm going to put about 200 grams of rice. Let's just measure to see how much I've got here. There you go, I've got about 200 grams. Now to 200 grams, I'll need about 2 egg whites. So it's about 70 grams of egg whites. I'm going to separate these in a separate bowl. As you can see, this is the chefy way to separate egg whites to the yolks. I'm just going to separate the rice granules here. As you can see, it's cold leftover rice. It's been in my fridge. I'm going to whisk these egg whites a little bit and add them in with another about 80 grams of cheese. So get that measure up again. What the cheese is going to do is to bind and hold all of that rice. The egg white and the cheese is just going to bind that rice and turn it into a nice crust once we've baked it. I've got Parmesan and tasty cheese here. You can use any sort of hard cheese that's good for baking. I'd stay away from the soft cheeses because it doesn't act as a binding agent. I'm going to give that a quick whisk and straight into the rice and cheese. Now, hang on to these egg yolks. We're going to use them as part of the pizza later on. So I'm just going to set that aside, put these away. Now, for the crust, what we're going to do is we're going to combine the rice, the egg whites and the cheese together. You do want to season this mixture. You can use any sort of dried hard herbs. So I've got a mix of Italian herbs, so Parmesan, oregano, parsley works great. You can even put a bit of chili, garlic granules. Use anything to flavor this crust. It just adds another dimension. And of course, salt and pepper. So I've added about 2 grams of seasoning. As you can see, it's going nice and a bit of a slurry. Now, once that's come together, we are going to get a baking tray. I have sort of like a high crust pie tin, and I'm going to give that a quick spray. Make sure you get the sides. It just makes the pizza crispier. And now I'm going to put my rice in here. And what we're going to do is to really flatten that out. You can use the back of a spatula or a wooden spoon, or you can, often I use a measuring cup so it has a nice even spread. As you can see, the crust is quite wet from the egg white, but that's going to bake all the way through, and we want to get that really, really nice crispy base. I'm going to do a deep dish pizza, so I want my pizza crust to ride up the sides a little bit. You can get your kids to help with all the fun bits. If you measure everything out, they can do all the tedious bits, especially if you're doing 6 or 7 pie crusts. For me, this is one of those recipes I have up my sleeve. We do a lot with rice when it's not eaten the night before. Like making fried rice is the obvious go-to. It's always delicious, everybody loves it. But this particular crust is not only gluten-free and tasty, but you can also use all these amazing leftover ingredients, and this one goes down really well with my kids. So if you have a look, this is what my beautiful crust looks like at the moment. Like a bit of a tart pie crust to make a deep dish pizza. I'm going to pop this in the oven at about 180 degrees, and I'm going to let it cook through for about 35 minutes. When I take it out, I'm going to put all the toppings in, and we'll go through that next. So my rice crust is cooked through. As you can see, it looks less like rice, and it's come together really nicely with the cheese, the herbs, and the egg whites. Now I'm going to top this pizza, deep crust pizza or pie, and stick it back into the oven to cook through more. The toppings I'm going to use is everything I deep dive into my fridge for. I've got a bit of tomato paste, so a few squirts of that. I'm also going to mix that with a little bit of pesto. I love using pesto and tomato paste in my rice crust pizza because the rice really, really soaks up that beautiful pesto, nutty, herby flavor. This adds a lot of flavor to the bottom of your pie crust or pizza crust. So I've got my pesto and tomato at the bottom. I'm going to just fill it up with all of these veggies that I found in my fridge. I have half a capsicum or a quarter of a capsicum, a mushroom. I have a bit of chili, some fresh tomatoes, cheese. So I'm going to fill up my pizza now. So now I'm just going to go in and put all of my leftover veggies into my pizza crust. This is a great way to use up all your leftover herbs and veggies and the bits and pieces that are sitting in your fridge. A few things that I like to use is the leftover sandwich meats that I had. If you have a roast or anything that your kids enjoy, it could be minced meat like kima, especially all the little bits of vegetables that we don't tend to use up goes great in a deep dish pizza like this. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, remember those eggs, the egg yolks that we had that were left over? I'm going to give them a quick whisk. And I'm going to add a little bit of cheese, so just a handful, and season it a little bit. And this is going to go into my pizza. I'm I'm gonna add some chilies. And these beautiful vine fresh tomatoes that I have left over. Now that my pizza is dressed and ready, I'm going to pop it back into the oven. It's probably going to take another 10 to 12 minutes. And then I'm going to dress it with some fresh herbs to finish off. So I've taken my pizza out and it's been sitting here cooling on a rack. It is nice and warm. All the toppings have cooked through. It smells beautiful. I'm going to just roughly chop some herbs. And again, you can use anything you have in your fridge. I always have parsley, coriander, mint, herbs like that. I'm going to go straight on top of this pizza. Gonna give it a little bit more seasoning and a drizzle of olive oil. Now, to me, that is a perfect lunch. My kids love this sort of food. It's what I serve on a weekend, and it's just using everything that I had in my fridge. So I hope you've been inspired by this recipe and create some really delicious meals using what's left over in your fridge, so that leads to less food wastage.